Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. Good evening, UK. Yes, I have a whole new setup and I hope this works. I think it's going to work. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. This is Toyin Umesiri. I'm the CEO of Nezaru, the founder of the Trade with Africa Business Summit, and I play different roles. If you've been following me on social media, you've probably seen the different things I do, which I'll talk about today. So I just want to say good morning. Yes, wow. The same thing. Yes, I tried to do this some days ago. It was a total fail. We had audio issues. So doing a sound check. If you can hear me, I want to know where you are. Hello from US. Yes, 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 South Africa. Me too. I've been looking forward to this. So again, this is Toyin Umesiri. I'm so glad you're here with me today. So sound check. I think everybody can hear me now. So I'm going to quickly dive into it. Wow, it's been a journey for me. So one of the things that I focus on is helping you connect in a new way to Africa through our events, through products, through services, through education, so training. And it's been an amazing journey. And I know there's so much information that we've been putting out there, and there's a lot more to share. Africa is the next economic frontier, and we at Nazaru, we're playing a huge role in connecting global leaders, trade experts, policymakers to the continent. So let me see. Well, I'm going to be scrolling. I see comments coming in. Hi, Cameroon. Hello, Nigeria. Oh, wow. New York City in the house. Morocco, how are you? Chicago, Ivory Coast, Canada. Wow. My goodness. This is a global community, right? This is incredible. And for me, this is a testament of what I've been creating is a global community, and everybody joining here is just making my heart, warm up. So what do I have for you today? I'm going to be covering investments and trade opportunities in agriculture, retail, manufacturing, distribution, and infrastructure development. In fact, we've created a new framework that helps investors and different people to connect with real examples, real conversations. A lot of times when people talk about Africa, they either talk about Africa in the context of charity, meaning let's help Africa. That's not where we play. I'm not from the world of charity. I'm actually from the world of business. So a little bit about my background is I've worked in corporate America for several years, most recently at Walmart, developing global solutions like supplier management. So how they buy, what they buy from around the world, the systems and the technology and the infrastructure that supports global trade at Walmart. I've also played in the merchandising space, textile merchandising, technology, strategy, supply chain, infrastructure. So all of that knowledge is something that I'm now bringing to the conversation around Africa to say, trade with Africa. But what does it look like, right? It's not just something in the cloud where we're saying trade with Africa. No, we're bringing it down home to the business community to say, what does it mean for you? What does it mean to you? One of the things I also like to do is to recognize that we have various players when it comes to trade with Africa. Depending on what you're doing, depending on who you are, depending on your work, Africa means something different to you. So, okay, I'm seeing so many. Let me acknowledge those that are joining. Namibia, Tunisia. Oh, wow. African. Yes, I see you all. New York City, Cameroon, France, Houston. Oh, I know I'm not going to be able to call everybody, but I welcome you all from all over the world. Again, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on where you are all across the world. Oh, wow. Is it Jamaica? I look at the flag. Did I get that right? I may be wrong, but yes, it's time to lead the conversation and the narrative on Africa. I agree with you, Bamini. Thank you so much for that comment. So, back to what I was saying in terms of trade and investment conversations on Africa. Stakeholders. Africa means different things to different people. So when we look at our stakeholder assessment, we understand that they're investors. And when you think about investors, investors are looking for return on investment. So the conversation we have with investors looks different from the conversations we have with trade facilitators. A lot of the people that follow my work, they're actually trade facilitators, members of Chamber of Commerce, Export Promotion Council. You either work with your government or for your government. So consul generals, trade delegation, ministries of trade, Ministry of Industries, the African Union. Those are key players that actually follow our work because they have a responsibility to either promote their countries, to either attract investment, to grow trade for like grow global trade. So I want to recognize those individuals as well. So there are trade facilitators, there are trade experts, right? And then there are people that just want to learn what's going on and see how they can connect and where they can plug in. So I recognize that we have a dynamic community. One of the things we've also tried to do is to create a space for you. So if you look at, let me see if I can use, right at the bottom. I think I'm doing differently. Okay, right here, there's a mirror. So right here, we've created a community of a digital community, and that's where we'll be hosting the 2020 Trade with Africa Business Summit this year. We know you're on a journey. I like to call it, for me, a journey of a lifetime. Don't go on this journey alone. Get into a community, connect with people, build the network, learn. So we do a lot of knowledge sharing. We help people learn. We provide resources. We provide training as well. So let me also say, I see, yes, I think it's being recorded. It's going to be out there. I see your question. Eros. Oh, Atlanta, US, I see you. Oh, Avad, I see you. Oh, wow. Trinidad. Wow. Oh my goodness. This is incredible. I know there's a lot of people, that follow the work, but to see it live in terms of how you're connecting from all over the world, it's quite impressive and wow, warms my heart again. So basically, one of the things we've done is to create a Trade with Africa framework because we want to land this conversation home. We want to make it relevant. And the framework which we've shared and will continue sharing, what we've tried to do is to say, these are investment areas. These are pillars of investment. We know what investors want. They want to make sure that your policies are right because it will protect their investment. They want to make sure that, you are going to protect everything they're trying to do. What we've also recognized are sectors that is ripe and rich in trade and investment opportunities. So the first one I would like to talk about is agriculture. Now, I'm not sure I'm going to be able to cover everything today, but one thing I want to do is probably once a week or twice a week, I'll keep building up this conversation that leads up to our 2020 Trade with Africa Business Summit, because you're going to hear from different speakers all over the world. And I'm going to share some stories today of some of the speakers and the incredible things they've been able to do when it comes to trade with Africa. So agriculture. Africa now has, I think, between 50 and 60% of the remaining arable land in the world, right? When you think about the land mass of the continent, coupled with the population growth that is projected to happen, that is happening and is projected to increase. So right now, the population on the continent is about 1.1 billion people. By 2050, it's projected to have doubled to 2.2 billion people. There are 55 countries. So I know when people talk about Africa, they're like, Africa is not a country. It's a continent of 55 countries and a billion plus people. And that's why I think it's important to make sure that we're very focused on breaking down the reality of Africa. Because I try to say that most people have only seen one side of Africa, what the media out there has projected, the caricature and all of those things. The reality is there's a fully functioning business minded community on the continent that runs global brands and global transactions and manufacturing that is yet to be talked about enough on the global stage. And that's the community that we connect with, right? So we work with banking executives, we work with political leaders on the continent, we work with trade experts that are really moving the dial. But we also recognize that they are not getting the exposure, enough exposure that they do need. So if you're one of those people, I see you, I feel your pain. In fact, one of the reasons we've built our platforms to be as big as it is, it's because it's not just Toyin that wants to speak. We've built this platform to, shine light on those great activity, investment, business focused investments happening on the continent, and to show the world and to showcase investment and trade opportunities that abound on the continent. So I'm seeing some questions. Let's see. What is your approach to legal barriers to trade and investment? Hope to hear your thoughts during one of the sessions. Okay, keep dropping your comments. Please keep dropping your questions and comments, and then I'll get right to it. So I really want to also share what I have on my mind. Okay, excuse me there. So basically, when you think about agriculture, the continent has about 50 to 60% of the remaining arable land in the world. Also, it has the youngest workforce, and it's growing because over the next 20, 30 years, more babies will probably be born on the continent of Africa than anywhere else. So while the rest of the world, the Western world, is encountering, an aging population, all of that, basically, Africa is exploding when it comes to population growth. That creates an opportunity, and I know people are taking advantage. So if you have baby products, if you have products for infants, you want to check Africa out as a destination, either to grow your manufacturing or to grow your distribution. So that's just a side comment right there. So coupled with the population growth, the youth workforce, the land mass, Africa is going to be a game changer when it comes to agriculture and the agriculture value chain. So depending on who you are, if you're an investor, that means something different for you. If you're a producer of seeds, or if you play in the agriculture value chain, you need to connect with the continent. So your seeds, your equipment. So if you have equipment that could be used in rural Africa, because a lot of the farmlands, they're in remote places, remote villages, the governments are trying to develop the land as well. And one of the things they tell us is they're looking for global partners, right? They're not just looking for short-term players that will just come in and out. They're saying, hey, we're in this for the long term. Africa is going nowhere. We want long-term players that will connect with us and help us achieve what it is we're trying to achieve. Okay? So one of the things I would also advise, players in this space is, watch how you communicate your intentions, right? Because when you're thinking about trade engagement or trade facilitations, there are always multiple sides to that conversation. So when you say, this is what I want, but hopefully you're not saying at your expense, right? What we want is true partnerships, true commitment. And I try to tell people in the West, especially in the US, to say, listen to the aspirations of Africa. When you listen to it, it's just like listening to their pain points. When you identify your customer's pain point, then you can say, hey, just so you know, I have the right solution for you, whether in services, whether equipment, whether it's seed. It's like, oh, Africa, I see you're trying to develop agricultural value chain. I see that you're trying to industrialize your community. Guess what? We have the best equipment. We have the best expertise. We have everything, the technology that you need to achieve your goal. And that, I have found, is what moves the conversation forward. So here is a tweetable. Don't try to sell in vacuum. It doesn't work. Don't just try to sell for selling's sake. Whatever it is you're trying to sell, goods, services, expertise, technology, knowledge, whatever it is you're trying to sell, it does help to know your customer. That's something those in business. Africa is no different, you know. You really have to understand the buying patterns, the aspirations, the pain points of Africans. What do they need? Whether they're business people trying to grow their business, or whether they are government people trying to create new jobs or industrialize their country. That those are the things that we are seeing, and we're saying this creates immense opportunities for people, even in the agriculture value chain. So I see more comments have come in. Let me quickly look at that. New York, Beijing. Wow, incredible. Hello. Um, okay. Yes, I'm saying we must sell Africa in all of its glory. That's why I love CNS Focus on Africa. But guess what? A lot of the shows that I watch on the continent of Africa that promotes the business community and encourages business dialogue, unfortunately, the Western investors do not watch those shows. That's what I've seen. So even for example, in 2018, I'm an ambassador for one of the biggest events and the biggest banks on the continent, and we hosted the first ever intra-African trade fair where they closed billions of dollars of deals. There were over 1,000 exhibitors right there in Cairo, Egypt. I was there, and I didn't see US, for example, I didn't see US businesses represented. I didn't see them exhibiting their products. I didn't see them exhibiting their services. I didn't see them connecting as China and the rest of the world was. And I'm going, oh, why? Because the Western media did not cover the story, right? You know, sometimes I say, well, they would rather cover some other types of story that we have seen. But when it comes to business engagement, here's another thing I would say. Just because you don't see it on the news, just because you're not watching it, doesn't mean it's not happening. Okay? Just because you're not hearing about Africa in the context of trade and investment doesn't mean it's not happening. That's something we're trying to tell people. Don't wait for the Western media to educate you about business opportunities in Africa. They're not there yet, right? It's going to take them maybe 3, 4, 5 more years before they say, oh, yes, we do need to cover Africa. Yes, we do need to cover investment because it serves us well, right? So as part of COVID recovery, one of the things we're showcasing as well is if you want to go after anything, consider exports, consider global trade, consider connecting at the global level. So I also see more comments coming in. Hello, the Scottish Africa Business Association. I see you. Wow. Thank you. Thank you for your comment. Loving this. I'm loving this too. I want to say thank you again to everybody that has joined from all over the world. Technology is incredible. Technology is amazing. I know we try to put content out there, but there's nothing I think like this live engagement because I'm getting immediate feedback as well. Thank you. Thank you so much. I see your comments. Okay, I see Zing Shah saying we are still struggling with the perception of corruption in the investment community. This is what I would say to this. There are several transactions that I have seen happen in the West, that it happens in a transparent way. But when it happens in Africa, in an untransparent way, it is labeled corruption. We have to redefine and understand what is acceptable and what is not acceptable. True transparency. So, for example, one of the things that I see happen transparently is referral commission. If you refer a business to somebody legally, right, through your legal structures, right, through global trade legal framework, you can come up with a legal document that say, if I bring you business, especially when there's no conflict of interest. So I'm not talking about when there's conflict of obvious conflicts of interest, right? So I do not support that. But I'm saying you make sure there's no conflict of interest, but you have a legal structure. You can actually draft contracts and say, if I refer business to you and you're able to close a deal, I'm entitled to X percentage of that deal. I've seen that happen, but you have to have a legal structure that makes it fully transparent. Unfortunately, there are some things that happen behind closed doors, on the continent that honestly the legal community needs to get behind and figure that out. So if you're a lawyer on the continent, you need to start looking at international law, what's acceptable, what's not, and start helping people create a livelihood for whatever it is they're trying to accomplish on the continent. Again, please hear me well. Conflict of interest, I'm not a lawyer, but that is a no-no, right? That is a no-no. But I think there's room for us to see what other people have done. What have they done in China? What have they done in Europe? What are they doing in the West? What are they doing in Latin America? How are they still able to engage in global transactions in a fully transparent way that has a legal structure behind it? That's something I'll leave to the legal teams to explore. But that's something I have seen in terms of, it's so easy to just come up with one line and say, hey, corruption. Like, let's understand what you're saying. I'm not saying, I would rather just focus on, let's better understand what it means and make sure that when it does happen, you have a legal structure and you have the government going after the wrong side of trade deals. So I'm not a legal person, but that's something that I've seen that I would love to explore further with the right set of people. So I'm seeing more comments here. Wow, this is a long one. Shingisa, you said implementation and practice of the African Continental Free Trade Agreement. There's concern for the logistics and actual practice of the great idea. Land rights and local content requirements, see Morocco and wow. I see okay, so when it comes to in the context of agriculture and say, for example, the African Continental Free Trade Agreement, one of the things I try to say is, yes, a trade policy, a trade agreement may exist on paper, but it does take the business community to implement that trade policy, right? To make it more practical, right? Because people behind the scene could come up with the best agreement. And I've seen this happen with the African Growth and Opportunity Act. That's an opportunity that was created 20 years ago in the US that opens the US market to exports coming out of Africa. But guess what? It's sitting on the book. But the stakeholders, not the politicians, it's been a political conversation, but I mean the business community on the continent, the exporters, and then the US buying community, a lot of them don't even know how to use it. They don't even know how to engage and work through it. And that's something we are helping the community to get behind because there's just 5 more years to go. So looking at AGOA, for example, and then looking at the African Continental Free Trade Agreement, I share the same concern with you. Is the fact that I play international trade ambassador. I am for AFCFTA. I support it. I promote it. But one thing I also try to do is to say the business community needs to understand what it means to them and how they can use it, leverage it, and use it for their business. So when you think about logistics, goods movement in and out of different countries, how do you actually practice and use this trade agreement? One of the things that COVID-19 has done, like is that July 1 was originally set aside as the first, implementation and actualization of the African Continental Free Trade Agreement. Unfortunately, because of the COVID-19 scenario, global pandemic, that has now shifted. So for me, I also want to see the practicality. But one thing I would encourage you to do, Shingisa, I hope I said your name well, is to plug in, stay connected. I actually have, I think, a 42 page presentation that the Commissioner for Trade and Industry at the African Union, that he's responsible for actually developing after and implementing after. He gave a presentation at my event. I have a 41-page document that I can share with you. So inbox me if you would like a copy of the 41-page, or I think 41 or 42-page documentation from His Excellency Ambassador Albert Muchanga, who gave a presentation about the Continental Free Trade Agreement, what it is, what the opportunities are, and where they're trying to take it. So stay informed, get all the knowledge you have, stay connected, and that's one of the things we at Nazaru also help you achieve. So, am I even going to be able to talk about agriculture? I want to share three stories in that space, but let me take a moment and see more questions coming in. Yes, we evolve and we achieve. Yes, everything is about balance, and think about everything is connected. Okay. Would love to get involved. Please join our trade community. We have people there. We're already sharing content, because one of the things I say is, where do you go for information? Where do you go to connect with people? Where do you go if you have questions, if you need training? And that's what we've created with our trade community around Trade with Africa. Okay. Ola says, love your thoughts on why it's critically important that investors understand the aspirations of those they are looking to partner with. Excuse me. So what I would say is that investors, so there are different categories of investor. I think people just use the word investor, but investors are looking for different things, right? Investors may be looking for growth sectors, growth businesses. So they might be looking at your business and saying, have you showed performance in the past? And if they are to bring their money into your business over the next 5-10 years, given the consumer market or in your region, there's actually solid return on investment for them, right? So that's one category of investors. A lot of venture capitals, they play that role where they're not looking to get their hands really dirty in the weeds of business transaction. They just want to bring their money, help you scale, help you grow your business, and get a return on their investment. There's some other investors in the class of maybe infrastructure development or even manufacturing. So for example, they could be producing a product for the US market today, and we help them understand that. So I talked about babies, right? So for example, I'm able to tell them that, well, on the continent, there are more babies will be born. Instead of just exporting your product, you can actually start manufacturing and bring your manufacturing to the continent, and even then start exporting beyond just, say, if they were to bring it to Nigeria or Ghana, you can start exporting beyond. One of the important things so if you're a trade facilitator and you have clients in the investment community, you have to help them understand that investment doesn't happen in a vacuum, right? You don't just invest just because you want to invest. You really want to understand the market, right? So that's why you need to understand the aspirations of Africa is a way to see where the continent is going. If you listen to the youth, you will see their energy, which leads to productivity conversations, which then leads to human capital development. So if you're into education, right, or if you're into skill training and upskilling, if you're not listening to the aspirations of the youth of the continent, you're not going to know that you can actually serve them and make money with your talent and upskilling. So right now, if you could help people figure out how to learn how to code, you may not, if you're not listening to the aspirations of Africans, you may not be presenting your goods and services in a way that connects. So for those people that know, when it comes to marketing, branding, communication, all of this also applies to Africa. Just because you hear Africa doesn't mean you're not going to do your own due diligence. So I hope I helped you on this, Ola. I hope I help you see that it's so important to start thinking about Africa more as a business transaction versus help Africa. No, investment conversation is not about help. It's not about hate. It's about transactions, it's about return on investment. So the narrative and the conversations need to also shift. And that's what we are saying. We're helping make happen, and we're also encouraging other people to learn how to do. So in fact, that's one of the things we're now starting to do. Is we know there are a lot of trade facilitators out there, who has responsibility to grow trade and investment, to connect investors to either their nations or their community. One thing we have to help you do is know how to communicate appropriately. Okay. So let me keep scrolling. Wow, I see someone joining us from Abu Dhabi. Hello. You're my alumni? Really? Okay. Speak on, sister. Thank you. I'm trying. Okay, I see you, Kevin. You said Kevin's had a lot of opportunities. Yes, agriculture, fashion. Yes. Yes, yes, yes. So much opportunities, but we have to help people see it, and we have to message it in a way that brings it home to the business community. I think that's the gap. It's not enough for us to see the opportunities, but we have to communicate properly. And that's one of the things we have mastered and we continue to do, even with our events as well. Okay, I see question here. How can you leverage your merchandising experience with Walmart to get African products on their shelf? Wow, this guy or girl just went straight in. So, full disclosure, there are several things we're doing behind the scenes that I cannot talk about publicly. I've not made it public, and I'm not ready to. But if you're in the textile industry on the continent, check in with me. DM, email us, and we can work with you on what the opportunities look like. There are several things we are doing behind the scene, but unfortunately, sorry, I cannot really talk about this publicly. But reach out if you need help, if you need support, if you need support and services in that space. Please email us, and we can work offline on that. Okay. I see Kevin say, I'm sure they have been there, just didn't have enough time to explore. This is the time that we are saying more people should, consider exploring Africa, right? We've just had COVID-19. Everybody's business has been disrupted, digitally disrupted. And it's a good time, right, to just learn, explore. And I know people are at different stages on their journey as well. So agriculture is probably something I'll be able to talk about today. I see a lot of questions coming in, and I still want to talk about agriculture. Wow, I'm seeing good questions coming in. So maybe let me try and answer some of those questions. Wow, it's impossible to achieve successful international trade relations without recognizing, adopting, or adhering to regional international. Okay, let me talk about what I would say markets. I try to educate people to think about three markets. Your local market, which means your country, your region, whatever it is, what it takes to transact and move goods and services within your local market. Number two, your regional market. So if you're in Ghana, consider Cameroon, consider Nigeria, right? When you leave your country and you want to engage. And then the global market is beyond that. I try to educate people. Please hear me well. The rules of each of those markets are different. So if you're used to playing in your local market and you're winning in your local market, and what you want to go regional or global, please spend time, considerable time, to understand what the rules are. For example, when you think about currency exchange, if you're in your local market, that's something you don't even think about. If you're transacting with people and players in your local market, say, for example, within Nigeria, you just trade in Naira. But under the Continental Free Trade Agreement that opens up the continent to you, once you start saying, hey, maybe I could have a partner in Cairo or in Ghana or in Egypt, the rules become different. The legal structures look differently. You have to, don't assume that you can bring your local understanding in terms of the understanding of your local market, that you can bring it to the local, to the global stage, or you can bring it to the regional market and it's going to work. It doesn't work. In fact, that is one of the top reasons transactions fail. Because the mindset shift hasn't happened, because people assume that just because I know how to close a deal, maybe in Lagos, Nigeria, means I can come to Chicago and transact with somebody and close that deal like that. I see that a lot. So I want to encourage you. We don't know what we don't know. You don't know what you don't know, right? We have also seen that happen. And we're trying to tell people, it's better to just invest time learning, growing, connecting, getting knowledge, so that when you do venture out and when you do connect with people, right, there is a win. The other thing I try to tell people is on the global market, you've got to be crystal clear. What do you have to offer and what do you want in return? Right? So I see people come to the global market and they're like, oh, I'm just exploring. Fine. If you're just exploring, that means you're not ready to transact. But the moment you think you're ready to transact, make sure that you can articulate your value proposition and what you want to get back in return. That really moves the conversation of trade and investment forward faster. Okay, so I hope that helped. International law is important, and having international lawyer, exactly. Please don't. Okay, this is Toy. I'm being honest, right? Don't work with a lawyer that doesn't have international law expertise. Please, they're not going to give you the best advice. They're not going to be able to, when you think about a legal counsel, that person is supposed to tell you, watch out for this, watch out for that, right? Don't step here, don't sign that, don't do that. But if that person doesn't have the experience to protect you, to protect your investment, to protect your transaction, how can they help you? How can they help you? The reality as well is that the legal teams that do understand international trade, they are very expensive, but their value is real. Like, this is not the time, when it comes to lawyers and legal things, this is not the time to pinch a penny. Get the best. Get the best, because they're going to save you. They're going to save you real, So I hope you will listen to that advice. Okay. Wow. These questions are just coming. I don't know what I'm going to do. Like, maybe after this recording, I'll also go back and try and type and respond to each of these questions, because it feels like I could almost go a long time trying to answer the questions. And they're so good. They're so important questions. So please keep it coming. I promise after the recording now, whichever ones I've not addressed on the video, that I'm going to dive into it. Maybe I should call this show Q&A with Toy. I don't know. Okay, transparency is the key to success. Yes. Yes. Wow. When it comes to global markets and global engagement and the investors that we see and we engage with, there has to be transparency. Like, it's so important, because if you're going internationally, the player across from your table that you're trying to engage with, their company has to abide by rules that look different from your transactions. So, for example, if a Nigerian investment banker and a US investment banker come together, trust me, you have to try and understand both sides of the dialogue, because the US side has to abide by foreign corruption practices that maybe the US, maybe the Nigerian company may not. So they have to protect themselves differently. And it does help for you to try and put yourself in their shoes, right? Try and do that for each other. That would move the conversations better. Don't assume that just because you want to engage and you're ready to engage, it doesn't mean that we want to engage. I'm talking to you like I'm having this, some of these conversations I would rather have behind closed doors, but I'm saying maybe we need to have some conversations with ourselves and be honest with ourselves as well, to say, when you're engaging in global trade, transparency is key. And you have to also understand the rules that the other player is playing by. The rules could be different for them. Okay, fair and transparent, yes. Wow, adoption rates. Oh, wow. I just got a notification, over 100 messages already. Oh my goodness. Yeah, okay, I'm seeing so many comments coming. Great, thank you. Please keep it coming in. But let me see if I can narrow down on the agriculture piece that I've been trying to get to in terms of investment and trade opportunities in agriculture. So, the agriculture value chain does a lot. Whether you're in the farm, growing, plants, whether seeds or cashew. And I'm going to talk about what those opportunities are, because sometimes people come to me and say, Toyin, what should we be growing? We have land. We have this land. What do the global markets look for that we can start growing, and we know a year, 2 years from now, there will be a ready market for us? That's a question we constantly have, and we help people address as well. But consider the agricultural value chain. One of the biggest challenges Africa has is bringing that to market, right? Whether it's a product, how do you process? How do you add value? How do you brand? How do you market? How do you close that gap, right? The entire value chain is not as strong as it should be, because the players that should be coming in, they've not seen the financial reward that value chain presents to them. So what we now try to do is to present a business case that explains the potential of the agricultural value chain. Let me give you, for example, cashew nut. The continent currently produces about 40% of the consumed cashew all over the world. Pick another, cocoa, right? The continent, between two countries on the continent, they produce 50 to 60% of the cocoa in the world. But guess what? That's at the beginning of the value chain. The end of the value chain is actually where money is made. So, growing cocoa or planting cashew, you're playing on the value chain, but most of the money is made when you add value and when you are able to present a finished product to the global market. Think of moringa. Think of different things that we know. Shea butter. So shea butter is another example in the cosmetics industry. So I also play in the cosmetic beauty world. We actually have a brand of skincare and beauty products that we've connected with the continent, and we leverage shea butter, right? Shea butter coming from the continent. So we're doing what we're telling people they should be doing. Don't just look at the shea butter or the cashew or the cocoa or the moringa that is growing on the continent today. Think about the value chain to say who is using this raw commodity today? Which industry uses it? And how can I play in that industry? So if you're in shea butter, great that you're supporting women in bringing shea butter, but think about using that shea butter to create amazing products, branding it in amazing ways, and selling it in the market, either locally, regionally, or globally. That's the opportunity in the agricultural value chain. Think about rice, think about beans, just making sure that whatever it is you're planting and you're growing, that you're not just thinking about it in a local way. Complete the value chain. And what you now see is there will be players that would help the farmers bring their products to the market. Those players, all they need to do is to create market access. You find logistics companies would emerge. What they'll be doing is they'll be having trucks and cars and things, that would help farmers bring their products to the market. That's what we mean by the agriculture value chain. Don't just think about what it takes to plant a product, but also consider what else can I do with this product. And we work with a lot of people. In fact, there's some incredible conversations that we are part of that blows my mind in terms of when you think about coconut oil, coconut chips, different things that people are doing all over the world. That is incredible. And I want to encourage more of it. But don't underestimate the power of the last mile, which is branding, marketing, and distributing those products. That I see as the weakest link right now in the agriculture or end-to-end value chain on the continent, is that we are not valuing that enough, but that's how you sell. So I want to share three stories that we featured on our Trade with Africa Business Summit. Three incredible, amazing stories of global impact. The first story I'll share is the story of Donnie Smith, the immediate past CEO of Tyson Foods. Tyson Foods is a $40 billion chicken business. One in every three chicken poultry products sold in America actually comes from Tyson Foods. It's a big business. And Donnie, I've had conversations with him. I've had sit-down conversation. You can go to our YouTube channel and search for Toyin Donnie Smith conversation. You see full length. I've done interviews. He's spoken. But one of the things he's doing on the continent is on the poultry business. So chicken, right? Donnie knows everything about chicken. He has a 36-year experience when it comes to chicken, not just chicken as I know I'm saying chicken, but anyway, not just chicken as just one chicken, but how do you build a $40 billion agriculture business around chicken? Anyway, Donnie is the best and is now playing in an interesting way. His strategy is actually impacting people at the bottom of the pyramid. So, for example, when he went to Rwanda, he's an investor in Rwanda. He's an American businessman, but he's investing in Rwanda. One of the stories he told me was he went to Rwanda and said, "Hey, I want to help operations of your customers on the continent." So what he did was he spoke to the Minister of Agriculture in Rwanda, and the idea he was trying to bring to Rwanda, the agriculture minister was like, no. That's not what we want. That's not what we need. People come in here, they do a practice here. No, what we need is a feed industry. One thing we have realized is we are constantly importing the feed that we give to our chickens and our livestock. We don't have any place to buy. We have our money, like we're not looking, this is not charity. We want to buy the right feed that has the best nutrients for our livestock. But we are finding out that we have to import everything. So what did Donnie do? Again, listening to the aspirations of Africans. Donnie built the first feed mill that produces feed in Rwanda. There was a real business case, and he ended up donating it under his not-for-profit, but the feed mill was about $1 million, but it generates transactions. So these are sustainable businesses where people are actually coming to buy feed. They don't have to just buy it from abroad or neighboring countries. Now in Rwanda, Donnie Smith built the first feed mill. Because sometimes people need to realize that you may have corn. What does it, like the ingredients that goes into feeding chicken, there are things you can actually find locally, right, in your country. But sometimes you need that expertise to bring it all together and to scale it up. So Donnie did that in Rwanda. And after he did it, I think 2 other investors have now built feed mill. Because when you think about competition, he now owned that market. But guess what? People also saw the investment opportunity in building feed mill in an African country. Is that people are ready to buy, they have livestock, but they want to buy the best and they don't have to import anymore in Rwanda. That's a real story. He's also helping at the bottom of the pyramid, which I'll just say, you know what, go and Google Donnie Smith, Toyin, Trade with Africa. You're going to see other stories that he shares. So I'm not going to say much more about Donnie. The other story that I want to share about opportunities, investment and trade opportunities in agriculture is the story of Scott Ford. Scott has been a great supporter and sponsor of our events. He's the CEO of Westrock Coffee. Go check them out. Let me plug www.westrockcoffee.com. That's a coffee that is doing amazing good in the world. Scott tells a story of he used to be a CEO of a major telecoms business. He sold the business to Verizon for about $29 billion, right? You know, you can't make the stories up. But, he retired early, but then took his investments to Rwanda. He also advises President Paul Kagame. But one of the amazing things that Scott Ford does in Rwanda is that he aggregates coffee from over 50,000 smallholder farmers across East Africa, aggregates it, processes it, and then completes the entire food chain by supplying companies like Starbucks, Sam's Club, hotel chains across the world. Scott Ford has now built the world's largest coffee roasting company. Scott is incredible. These are stories we featured on our platform. Again, you can watch Scott's story. You can watch his video on our platform, on our YouTube channel. We try to share all of these things to say, Scott, it's like when I had coffee with Scott when this was just an idea, I said, Scott, you represent what I'm saying is possible. It does take time, right? I'm not trying to say, hey, one within a year. No, this is a journey of a lifetime. And I've seen what it takes. We've heard the stories of who is doing what, and you can learn from them. Don't try to reinvent the wheel. In fact, one of the reasons we developed the Trade with Africa Business Summit is to showcase these stories of real impact, of real transactions, of real investment, of real trade opportunities. We want to showcase these stories so that you can learn what works. You can learn from them what they've made their own mistakes. If they share it with you, hopefully you don't repeat the same mistake. You can see what they've done, and hopefully you can get knowledge and connections and resources that can help you on your journey. You see, for me personally, what I believe is that more people should be solving for Africa, not just solving from this is not charity. This is grow a business. You can build a business around Africa. So that's another story when it comes to Westrock Coffee. Again, if you're into coffee and you're in the US and you want to buy coffee, that's a coffee that we feature on our platform. In fact, they are our coffee sponsors as well. I love what they're doing, and I've seen the impact they are having. And I'm saying these are the stories we want to talk about. These are the stories we want to showcase, because we know there are more players that needs to engage. And if you're a buyer on the US side, one thing I also work with buyers to say is be open to products coming from Africa. The best of Africa is on its way. We're working with those in the community, and we're helping them prepare to get into the global market. So that's another story that we talk about when it comes to agriculture. Again, real stories, real impact, real transaction, real transformation. Because in East Africa, a lot of the farmers, they're, moms, pops, and some of them are widows. They can only produce maybe a bucket a day or something like that. But when you have an aggregator coming, right, and they can help organize the market, all of a sudden you can scale, all of a sudden you can grow volume, because the global market is always looking for volume. One of the things I also tell people, if you're in Africa, please don't think you have the skill that is required. What China has done is to organize their market so they can go out and capture trade opportunity that is massive, and then come back home and divide it up within their community. So form an association of textile manufacturers. To the person that was asking me about textile, the skill that global buyers are looking for, the question is, do you have that skill? And if you don't have that skill, honestly, they don't want to talk to you. I'm sorry. I'm being very direct. I'm being very blunt. They're not going to change. There's some things we're still working on, but that's the way it is today. Global buyers that are used to scale would rather work with big manufacturers. But for African manufacturers that are on that journey, it's so the way you can win, and this is our advice to ministries of trade, whether you're in Botswana or South Africa, is organize the market in such a way that you have groupings of manufacturers, group them, group 5, 10, 20, 20 manufacturers that we can then bring a template, a design to, and all the 10 would manufacture the same thing. Quit trying to say, oh, it's me, myself, and I, only my business. No, the global market doesn't, it's about scale. And how can you scale? Okay. So that's something we try to get ministries of trade to start thinking about. It's not just one business, it's the global market, the global buyers think differently. My former colleagues, they think differently. Yeah, they want to engage differently, and those are some of the information we're bringing to those in on the continent as well. So I'm looking at the time. Yes, I'm going to start wrapping up. I'm going to try and see more questions, but I promise that after this recording ends, I'm going to go to all the platforms that we're live streaming on, and I'll respond to your questions individually. It's going to take me a while, but I also encourage you, if you need support, if you need services, if you need training, we've created a community that helps you and supports you on your journey, that helps you win globally. That's our focus. That's what we bring to the conversation. Okay, so I'm scrolling through the questions. When I look this way, I'm actually looking at the questions as well. Wow. I'm really going fast, so I know opportunities and traction, workable skills and aspiration. Absolutely. Spend time exploring what other regions have done. There are some videos I've been doing over the last couple of weeks. I also encourage you to go to our YouTube. I did one on COVID-19 recovery for Africa. I explained 5 things that Africa can do to quickly recover and go capture trade and investment opportunities. I've done different videos, but hey, go to our YouTube channel. There's a lot of content out there. Okay, check my messenger. Yes, I'm checking my messenger, but unfortunately, I can't respond to all the questions live. I'm scrolling through that. I see your comment, Tama. Um, Absolutely, but the continent is very aware of this impression and making deliberate effort to curb it. Absolutely. Do not underestimate the power of investment promotion. Tell your story, tell who you are, tell what you bring to the table, explain what you're needing, right? So we've got to that the old narrative about help Africa does not work in the business community. Like that's something you need to scrap. Well, maybe not scrap, but for when you're engaging with investors, focus on value, value for value, value proposition. Okay, we have to keep pushing different developments in spite of the issues of absolutely. Um, okay, sounds great, but we tried multiple times to enter into Africa. Initially, I thought it would be easy, but the continent is so riddled with greed from other major nations that it's hard to break into the formal informal economy. So, what I would say is that it takes education to educate people on the continent about the value of what it is you're trying to do. When you talk about greed, greed is an human phenomenon that is not isolated to Africa. It's everywhere. But one thing I try to tell people is global transactions, global regional transaction is about win. How do you create win-win-win scenarios? You win, I win, we all win. This is not I win, you win, I lose. No. What makes global transactions happen? And again, you need a strong legal support to explain the letter of whatever it is your deal you're trying to close. Do not work with a lawyer that does not understand international trade. Maybe that's my biggest advice to anybody that is already working on a deal right now. You don't know what you don't know, and you need the right legal team to help you put this thing on paper, right? So putting it on paper and structuring deals that are win-win-win, that's the only way to move forward. Anything that is like, I win 60%, you win for the, it's so important to be fair. Global transaction is about being fair, fair to all concerned. Otherwise, they don't have to deal with you. They can work with somebody else. John sent me details in my messenger. Thank you. Just, yes, send me emails, info at nazaru.com. I'm going to spend the next couple of hours going line by line through all of this. I know I wanted to come on here just for 30 minutes, but we're having so many amazing questions, conversations. This is blowing my mind. And anyway, can we get a logistics, freight, and supply chain group on your app? That is a key area as Africa is difficult. Yes. In fact, when it comes to logistics supply chain, last year we brought in a team. They attended our event and they were one of our speakers. They are responsible for they're the cross-border road transportation agency from the southern part of Africa. The CEO and president of that agency and other members of his team flew in from South Africa, and they gave a presentation on the Linking Africa plan. So on our trade platform, you can actually buy for, I think, $49.99. So, so small. You can actually buy content of all the speakers that I'm referencing, from Export-Import Bank presentation to African Export-Import Bank presentation to the African Union presentation to the Linking Africa plan. So I would say what I would recommend if you're interested in logistics and supply chain is watch the Cross-Border Road Transportation Agency, their presentation last year, that it talks about. One of the reasons I like bringing real people and business people on is that this is not theory, right? This is not an academic study, right? Even though my husband is a professor, great. This is not an academic study of PhD. Fantastic. The way we play is real business people that are in the front line, that are making things happen, that can actually answer questions, real questions. Those are the people that we work with. Because it's high time that we start moving in when it comes to the business community. It's not just, I want to write a white paper, I'm studying this. Great, we will give you all the data you need, but primarily we are looking for people that are ready to engage. So again, supply chain logistics, if you're looking at the current landscape of supply chain logistics in Africa, you think about the Silk and Belt Road that China is also, that impacts the continent as well. Go watch Cross-Border Road Transportation Agency, CBTR or CBRT. Research them. They are in the front line. They are an association and an agency that supports, the movement of goods and services in the southern part of Africa. That would really answer that question. Strategy development and implementation. So we're also seeing growing food companies in the world. Nobody produces more food and agriculture than my company. I see you're promoting. Okay, you must bring something to the local. Absolutely. Value for value. What is your value proposition, either to an investor or to your community, or if you're trying to sell goods? One of the things I tell people that are producing goods, people ask me, Toyin, is there a market for this product that I have? Is there a buyer? One thing I tell them is you're asking the wrong question. You're not asking the right question. The right question is, am I producing a product that people around the world would want to buy? Do I have a product that would attract a buyer? Because guess what? The buyers have options. They can go to Vietnam. They can go to China. They can go to Latin America. They can go to Canada. They can go anywhere else in the world. It's up to you to make a case for why your product is an amazing product. And one of the things we help people is to create a pitch document that presents a case for, this is my product. You can make a case for the impact we're having in the women community in terms of women empowerment, because I know there is no agriculture on the continent without women empowerment. The women run the local farms. They are in charge of the local agriculture supply chain on the continent. Woohoo! So women empowerment is big. So if you're interested in us helping you to prepare to pitch your product or your service on the global market, those are some of the things we do. I mean, immediate support. That's something we can help with as well. I'm scrolling through more questions. Kenneth said, I'm sorry, we're not talking about right now partners. Okay, governments and leaders working together to be. Absolutely. We actually showcase. So let me give you an example of how the roles of government as well. So one of the agriculture stories that we also featured was what the Consul General of Nigeria, Atlanta, actually shared on at our event. You know, we had an event in Arkansas. Arkansas is huge on agriculture, right? So we had him speak at our events, and one of the things we were also trying to do was what are the trade and investment opportunities that Arkansas, the states of Arkansas, and country Nigeria, what are the things they could do? And right there, live in our at our event, this conversation came up. Catfish. I kid you not. I kid you not. The fact was that the consul general said Nigerians eat a lot of catfish. And Arkansas, as a state, understands when it comes to research, the entire value chain of catfish, the education, the expertise in terms of that world. Arkansas was a state that was very, very good with it. So we were able to ignite and start that conversation in terms of catfish exports, whether they have expertise. How do you help people to grow their catfish business in Nigeria? I kid you not. So if you're a policymaker from Africa, this conversation needs you as well. We had policymakers come to our event. They flew in from Nigeria. And one of the things they said, and I have this on record in the video, he said, Tori, more of my colleagues need to come to your event. If you can bring more of us, when we go back home, we can make more difference because you are sharing with us policy opportunities, we can change investment opportunities. This is what we want for our nation. So one thing I'm seeing even in the policy side of things is, you know, leave Washington, D.C. Like, get out of, like, Washington, D.C. is great for diplomatic interaction, yes, but you need to start knowing that if you want to engage in technology, you need to go to Silicon Valley. If you want to develop your manufacturing or automotive industry, you should check out Detroit. You should be meeting and connecting with automakers and auto executives and talking to them about opportunities or investment opportunities in your country. In fact, that's what President Paul Kagame has done. Two of his advisors have shared with me, and again, we have videos. We have this on record of what it took for Rwanda to be the shining light on the continent. In fact, last year, our Trade with Africa Investor of the Year is one of the investors that invest in Rwanda and is an advisor to President Paul Kagame. And what they have done, and they continue to do, is to help Rwandan leaders and Ministry of Trade to connect directly with the business community all over the world so that you can listen to them, so that you can make sure that you're able to attract that investment. And if you check out our Trade with Africa framework, you see it as a house. The house and the roof of the house is fiscal policies, enabling policies, and fiscal responsibility. The reason we made it a roof is because that protects the investment of the people coming in, whether you're local investors in the business community or foreign investors. You've got to protect that as a policy maker. So that's why we do that as well. Okay, I think this list of questions is never ending. Oh my gosh, and they're so good. So I'm scrolling down. Okay, I cannot answer. I'm sorry, but there's just over 100 comments here, which is fantastic. I'm going to try and wrap up here. I'm going to make this a series, so I'll be back at least once a week. I'll make this at least once a week. So please drop a comment, what you would like to hear, what you'd like to see. Again, we at Nazaru, we're here. We help you connect to Africa through our trade events, through our products, through our services, through our training opportunities. Because one of the things we've also seen as we've been engaging with people is that fundamentally, we also have to explain the foundations of business development. So we have a course called the Sales and Business Development Workshop. and training where we actually help people build a solid foundation, because we're saying if you want to trade with Africa or if you want to engage with foreign investors, the principles of business, understanding your customer, understanding your clients, understanding your stakeholder is so important so that you can message and communicate with them and also make money from it. Because if you're building all of this and you're doing all of this and then you're not making money, that means it's charity. You're building a not-for-profit business. But in order for this to be sustainable, like our work to be sustainable, this has to be a business transaction. And that's one of the things we're helping people to see is what you're doing right now, in the context of trade with Africa, how are you building your business? How are you structuring your business? Because you could be spinning your wheels, trust me. You could be providing value, you could be engaging with people. And at the end of the day, you have not structured it as a business, but it's more of a charity. I mean, I usually call things the way they are. So we want to help you win globally. That's our goal. We provide you support, information support, consulting, all of that, because we bring to you stories, headline, information, resources that we know can help you win globally. So on that note, I'm going to be wrapping it up today. I'll spend the next couple of hours responding individually to all the questions. Thank you so much. It's incredible. Wow, I'm just blown away. I have to go back and just say what just happened here. It's incredible. It's massive. And that's why we're saying, it's so important. And the conversation we're leading around trade with Africa, the time has come. This is Africa's time. And we welcome all global players that want to explore investment and trade opportunities to also join us for the third edition of the Trade with Africa Business Summit. There are links in the description of this live feed, and I hope to see you there and also join our trade community. Thank you so much from my heart. I really thank you again. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are, and hope to see you again soon. Bye.